Thank you.
Can I ask you right off the bat what you just said about how to properly dispose of the old flags?
Yes, sorry, say that again.
Can I ask you, well, you just said it outside, but I didn't hear very well. So how do you dispose properly of the old flag if you want to?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, so prayer flags, what you normally do with prayer flags and what you do with Dharma materials. So let's turn our phones off in the room. We're kind of in a retreat mode, so if we can turn the phone off, is what you normally do, even if you get a letter and it says Shantideva in the return address, any word of the Dharma, any letter, you can't recycle or throw out. Prayer flags included because they have blessings on them and images of Buddhas sometimes. So what we do is we have something called delusion burn. And what delusion burn means, we usually have a box at the center, a basket, something like that. Don't keep it on the floor. It needs to be raised at least knee height. So just like your Dharma materials, like if you have books in your home, they need to be knee high, the level of your knee or higher. Usually I keep the Dharma books at the higher shelves and then the other books lower. You also don't want to have Dharma books and altars at the foot of your bed where your feet are facing them as you're sleeping. So then what you do is you keep this delusion burn pile together. And when you have a little bit, you can, if you have a yard, you can burn them in. It's okay to then burn it. Ideally, you try to put it on a hibachi or something like that so it's not on the ground. But you do the best you can. Clean the hibachi out if you use it for other things. So make sure it's clean first. Some people I know have little ones just for Dharma at their homes that they store just for the Dharma, especially if you're in a city. And then what you do is you say some mantras, and FPMT shop has something about it. They can advise you if you contact them which mantras to say. Usually the heart of dependent arising mantra is one of them, visualizing the letters are leaving the sheet, dissolving into emptiness, like that. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So we come back, another transition. So another gap, transition, and slowly just making sure the motivation is in a good place. Making sure that motivation, can close your eyes lightly. Just reorienting, rebalancing your mind. So we had our Guru Yoga practice. And what you do normally in tantric, high yoga tantra retreats is the first session of the day, you have to do basically what's called a long sadhana. Sadhana, again, it's the practice. Sadhana means method of accomplishment. So through this practice, I will accomplish Buddhahood, ideally, is what I want to do. So you do, sometimes those long sadhanas can be 45 minutes, an hour, can take a while to really go through it thoroughly. You're not reciting a lot of mantras at that time, but the subsequent sessions of the day, it's shorter. You do a shorter level of that practice. So let's just once again recall the Buddha that we left out there all day. Is there to bless our minds, bless our hearts. And we've got a couple people who are waiting to come in, but I just want to show a little bit more Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga while we digest our lunch. See if I can bring this up. This isn't exactly the video I was trying to find. I couldn't find the video that I was using, but we can just get a little sense of Rinpoche. Thank you. Oh, that's great. So I'm wondering how we get the sound. Oh, here we go.
Oneness.
Okay.
Without Guru, there is no Buddha. So both, you know.
So this is a bit about Guru devotion, Rinpoche is talking about.
Without Buddha, without Guru, there's no Buddha. Without Buddha, there's no Guru. You know, when it's all out.
Can you see the subtitle? No, you can't see them if I, let's see. Just see if you can see the subtitles when they're.
That's you know. For example, tea, you know, tea, and then Indian language, chai, chai, chai.
So Rinpoche's talking about Indian tea.
By third class, long time ago. India, when we were staying in Pakistan, living in Pakistan, concentration camp in Pakistan, where Mahatma Gandhi, the Prime Minister, were President, my Prime Minister John Nehru, were President, many others. So there's also many people killed. And I think this place was to kill people.
Okay, so Rinpoche's talking about, and this is a story. Rinpoche tells a lot of stories. So you just get a sense of Rinpoche, but Buxa was a refugee camp where the Tibetans were sent when they exiled Tibet and they had no place to go, and they sent them to Buxa. And Buxa had been a concentration camp when Mahatma Gandhi was doing his protests and things, and they had put a lot of Indians there. So Rinpoche, so a lot of all the monks were there in Buxa. They all met each other. I think, you know, amazing stories from there. Very, very harsh conditions. Many of the monks coming down from the Tibetan plateau, which was very high, got all these diseases. Many of them died there at Buxa because the conditions were, the sanitation was horrible and they had never been exposed to these viruses and bacteria.
And where I lived there for 8 years, monks lived there 10 years. Then they moved to South India because that was a very harmful place. So during those times when we traveled by third class, you know, at the beginning, the teacher who took care of me in Tibet, who helped me to become monk in Tomon Geshe's monastery in Tomon. Tomon is Yatron is just next to near Sikkim. You go beyond from here, then from India, you go to Sikkim, then from there you go to Tibet.
Sikkim, you go to Sikkim, Rinpoche saying, yep.
After cross Sikkim, then Yatron, Tomon. So Tomon, then Bhutan is very close, Bhutan. Tomon. The language is quite similar to Bhutanese language. So, and the food, or maybe the food, you know, also quite similar. So anyway, who helped, teacher who helped me to become monk there, to Lama Geshe's monastery.
I forget where Rinpoche is going with this story, but we'll hear. I forget what some of Rinpoche's stories were.
So we're traveling by train, third class. So how you do when the train comes? When the train comes at the station, like Siliguri or something. So when the train stops, the people at the door trying to get inside. So what you do is when the train comes, then kind of slowly it comes, you know. I mean, it's kind of that kind of slowly comes. I mean, yeah, it's slow, but not too slow. So So you don't stay there where people waiting, when so many people waiting to get. No, you go before. You go a little bit ahead, and then you get inside. You go a little bit ahead, and then you get inside. Then you get inside. Draw the luggage. The luggage bedding. So everything is a bedding. Bedding. Bedding inside your blanket or something for sleeping at the train station. The inside all the other materials in bedding. So you roll the bedding you put it inside the door or window. You push inside the door window.
Just like the New York subway, right?
And you push. And then there's still the trains going, Then you try to get inside what is doing. So it's easier, more chance to get inside. So once you stop that, then people trying to get inside, then fighting and there. So then inside, all like this, kind of like glass, like that. Then you fight for 1 hour. It was skin for 1 hour. Then became slowly, less and less. And then also people, because different stations, people go away. So less people. Then most people sleep and less people. And so then you fall asleep. Maybe 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, then chai ground.
Okay, so this is the Indian train, the old train system, and I can't remember because this wasn't the ones I had marked out where I wanted to show, and I couldn't find that video. I'm not sure. Rinpoche would come into a story and retreat, so I'm telling us a story for purpose. But the old Indian trains, the way they did it, and I showed up later than this, obviously. Never did a third class, but I've done many second class of people have chickens on the train. They used to have goats. And there was a crush to get on the train. There's so many people in the lower class trains and just bench seats, hard wooden seats. And it was just people sleeping everywhere. It was just crazy. It was just totally insane getting on these trains. And if you had your luggage and then what would happen is, in India, there's always tea. Got to have your chai. You always have, and so then somehow Rinpoche saying when people go to sleep finally, and then there'd be the chai wala, the chai guy, he'd come. In the old days, it was little clay cups they'd come with. The old, and you'd hear the guy, chai, garam chai, chai. I heard it in my guest house in Nepal was the same. 5 o'clock in the morning, the guy would start, chai. So we always joke about, different things and one time at Vajrapani, the center in California, we have a family camp every summer. So the kids made a play about the Buddha and different things and the Indian plane. And one of the like senior students there had 3 kids that grew up in Buddhism and they'd been in India and Nepal. But they heard all the stories of their parents in the old days in Nepal, what it was like. And so we're doing this play with the kids. And then one of the kids comes out and he's got the thing with the tea and you hear him going around the stupa, chai, garam chai, like he learned from his parents. And we were all just hysterical. If you'd been in India in those days, it was really scary until you learn kind of the Indian system. Anyway, so Rinpoche's talking about the chai, they're selling tea.
Comes the person, the clay pot.
Clay cup.
Small clay pot, you take some more clay and you have tea. But you have to watch well because this clay pot, small clay pot, if you don't look well, there's dust. There's quite a bit dust inside because I think the person has been living there for a long time, so the dust you have to look around. Otherwise, the dust. Then you choose your tea become one of the dust. In Tibetan we call champu. The tamba they mix not back, the heart of not that much I'm just joking, but in some dust, I did tea, chai ground, so that you fell asleep, after several hours sleep, then 10 o'clock, chai ground, passing
Got him chai. Yeah, the guy
passing
comes.
through the window, chai ground, you know. Then, so then Tibetan soja, cha.
Suja is tea in Tibetan. If you want, do you want tea?
Cha. But it's just a different name, tea, you know, and then chai and only tea. but if different name is one thing, but different name, so like that. So Buddha. Before Buddhism was Buddhism, the ordinary person.
So Rinpoche is just saying, giving this very long story to show, like, you have the word tea, chai, right? Soja in Tibetan. He goes, it's the same thing. It's just different names. So guru, Buddha, deity, like he's just making a point like that. He would do all these stories just to, sometimes it would sink into somebody sooner. So I just wanted to give you another little taste. Now we're all here. And I want to thank Glenn for putting up the prayer flags. And thank you to everybody that made it possible. Thank you so much. And Bonnie, thank you very much. And George, and thank you so much. So I'm glad we could all be part, and we're going to come back. But I just wanted to bring Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga into the room while we digest a little bit. And now we're going to go back to our meditation. So again, we leave the Buddha out there, we're still getting our blessings. We had a moment to set our intention again, our motivation. Fantastic, like that. And just moving along in the Lamrim. I know we don't have a lot of time left, okay? I want to do a meditation on suffering. On suffering. So we don't like to hear the word. Just hearing the word alone doesn't really work. And what we're usually doing when we're teaching is, Spiro, I forgot your name for a moment. I was like, what was I going to call? I was going to call you something else. I was thinking that Spiro. I wanted to thank you for your help with the prayer flags. We hear the word suffering. We're very averse to that. We don't want any suffering at all. Everybody wants to be comfortable, so much so, like that. So basically, what we talk about when we're teaching suffering, we break it down. Most teachers say it's the 3, the 6, and the 8. The 3, the 6, and the 8. So there's divided into 3 sufferings. Okay, then they're divided into 6 sufferings, and they're also divided into 8 sufferings. And some of these sufferings overlap. They're similar. Okay, so again, it sounds heavy, but as I mentioned just before the lunch break, we have to explore different ways we suffer to really understand. And what happens for us in our cultures is we have it pretty good. So we impute pleasure on our suffering. And it's very, very hard for Westerners to really get the sense, and to have to sit and meditate on suffering can be really uncomfortable. Okay. So, and again, I mentioned this before, where samsara, as most of you know, is a Sanskrit word to turn. Samsara, to turn, to cycle. And we're cycling through birth, old age, sickness, and death. Okay. And all of that, according to Buddhism, is suffering. So it doesn't mean there isn't some beauty in birth. There's actually some beauty in death. We've seen some what I might call beautiful deaths, but there's suffering. There's a lot of suffering like that. So that's what we're turning through. You must know that you can get out of samsara. Every one of you can get out of samsara. It's possible. And that's what we're going for. That's what we're trying to create, the situation, the conditions to practice more, transform our minds like that. So, and what happens is, if you look at the 3 sufferings, you have blatant suffering that we understand as suffering. You have a headache, you break your leg, you fall off the ladder. I'm really glad you didn't, right? Mental, emotional addictions, things like this. All kinds of suffering we experience. Cancers, diseases, like that. So we're familiar with that. That's easy for us. We know that, okay? But then you get the suffering of change. It's the second of the 3 sufferings. So just focus on the 3 sufferings now. Suffering of change is more subtle. Each one is more subtle. So the suffering of change, we believe for us is happiness. That's what we impute as happiness. Okay. You're sitting on the park bench, beautiful day, you're enjoying looking at the park, sitting in the sun. It's really great. Air quality is good and all that. And you're sitting and you're sitting and you're sitting, and suddenly you start to feel a little warm from the sun. So suddenly, and this is mundane, but suffering appears. I'm not, and there's a little thing in your mind that goes, I'm not comfortable right now, I'm a little warm. I'm too hot. You start sweating, right? So the natural thing is shady side of the bench, you move over. Yeah? And then when you move over to the shady side of the bench, there's this initial, this feels so good. Okay. So then we impute some happiness on that. That's happiness. That's a suffering of change. Okay. Because if it was ultimate happiness, sitting in the shade, okay, and I'm talking about sitting on the bench is mundane, it's a mundane activity. But we put a lot of happiness on that shady moment. Well, this is pleasure. I feel good, I feel really good. So we're sitting there. If it was a true source and condition for happiness, okay, the longer you sit in the shade, the happier you'll be. So you sit and you sit and you sit, and now a little breeze goes by, and now I'm a little chilled. So I get up and I move to the sunny side of the bench. And then there's a moment of, oh, it's so warm, it's so nice, it feels so good. Okay. And then I impute that pleasure again, lasting happiness there. Doesn't work. Suffering a change. And we go through this all day long. This is all we're doing, is chasing the pleasure. That's samsara. And you can say park bench. I mean, my mom had it with chocolate. My mom imputed ultimate happiness on chocolate, right? So I would notice her whole condition when you brought a box of chocolates, how she responded. You see it, the ice cream cone. You're going out to dinner with friends, right? You're all excited, the meal and all that. And the beginning of the dinner is different than the end of the dinner. How you feel, your appetite, whether you liked your food. All this suffering of change is constantly, we're molting through, and we're molting through what the self-cherishing I, derives pleasure from. How can I get more pleasure? And then we're constantly just making those changes. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. So it's really helpful to spend some time in that meditation, watching your daily activities. Oh, look, we did that. And then I just was noticing the restaurant. We had lunch, this restaurant. You're hungry. Sit down. Okay. So just food is absent from your stomach, and then here comes the self-grasping I, I'm hungry. It just means my stomach's out of food. But no, I'm hungry. More solidified thing. If I bring in emptiness, okay, more solidified concept of myself. Right? I don't exist that way. But suddenly when you have some affliction, some discomfort, I'm experiencing this. I'm the only one experiencing it. So you want to explore. Okay. And then we order, and then we eat, and then we get lovely food. We were fortunate we had lovely food, right? And then there's all that excitement of eating the food. Or maybe it came and you were like, this isn't really what I thought I was going to get, right? Then a little cloud comes in, So each thing you can do, how do we adapt? Okay, from the heart of bodhicitta. How do we adapt? Different things. Sometimes we can adapt well, sometimes not. Depends what's happening, what's going on, like that. And I've seen that sometimes. I've seen people where this wasn't exactly what they wanted. And I see some people go, oh, no, it's okay. Doesn't matter. And other people go, no, can you take it? This isn't what I wanted. Like that. And sometimes it depends. Sometimes they really get the order wrong. Do you say something? Do you not say something? But but what happens is we're so fortunate. For most of us, I don't know all your stories, but we're so fortunate in this part of the planet, our, Western affluent culture or just comfortable culture. As one of Rinpoche's Italian students, I've mentioned this before, one of Rinpoche's Italian students declared when he met the Dharma, met the Lamas, suddenly got into teachings, and all of a sudden said very loudly once, I heard this, I wasn't there, I heard, the Lamas have ruined my samsara. Okay? So, you're going along and you deal with your little bits of discomfort. I call them first world problems. You know, it's not really a problem. But for some people, they get really tweaked by it. They get really upset. And then the third of the three sufferings, if we break it down like that, the third one is sounds really heavy. And this was Lama Zopa Rinpoche's name title for it. It's called slightly different things in different traditions by different teachers. But Rinpoche really gives it to us as all pervasive, compounding suffering. The ing, compounding. It's happening every moment. It's happening every moment. You don't have a direct perception of emptiness. I'm sorry to say. So we're suffering from that. Okay, all pervasive, compounding suffering. Sounds tremendously heavy. It is. Okay, so it's a situation we take rebirth over and over and over because we don't have a direct perception of emptiness. So every time I come back as a sentient being, so kiwo, Tibetan, a sentient being, an ordinary consciousness, not an Arya consciousness. Arya is noble consciousness. You're noble because you've had a direct perception of emptiness. But as an ordinary being, you come back with these aggregates, this collection, my body and mind. So form aggregate is my body, form mental aggregates is my mind. And I take that collection over and over. If I become a human, okay, or in an animal form or in another form, okay, with ignorance. The mind merged with ignorance, again, confusion from simply not having a direct perception of the truth of reality as it really exists, like that. So that's just our setup as ordinary beings. You're not bad, you know, you're not bad. It's just this is our setup. So let's inspire ourselves. Let's get to the practice right now, because we have a great situation right now. I may not have this next time around. I really must get to it now, okay, to keep making progress to get emptiness directly. 84,000 teachings the Buddha gave were all for the point of getting emptiness. That's how important it is. So it doesn't mean bodhicitta is not important at all. All the other topics are basically a setup to get you into the higher scope of the Lamrim, to develop that good heart, go through those bodhisattva levels, okay, while you're trying to meditate on emptiness. You need both of those wings, the bird, to fly to enlightenment. And what's supporting you? Guru devotion. Some relationship with a highly qualified being, okay, that is helping you traverse the path more quickly, getting free, helping you get free, you know? So that's the whole path. And then what we're trying to do along the way for most of us is we may not get to study emptiness at death. We may not get to do the Vajrasattva retreat, may not get to do that retreat or take a tantric empowerment. Okay, like that. So what I might do is I'm just going to try to do some practices that clean away some of the stuff. Nundro, you know, maybe I'll do this little practice. Maybe I'll get some prostrations done, and I'm going to do some of these practices, the Nundro, that help me accumulate the conditions to have more interest to do more practice. More interest to do more practice. You know, little subtle things can happen. And again, like I said, I'm not any special practitioner. I'm really not, right? But so the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga practice, just talking to you, Lama Tsongkhapa, it's another Guru Yoga. It's a 7-limb prayer. Focus with Lama Tsongkhapa, the 2 disciples. It's very easy, right? It's on the sheet that I gave you. It'll be there. And there's a commentary. I did a video commentary once. A center asked me, could I tell them how to do that practice? But there's a 5-line mantra called the Miksema mantra, okay? That's that Nundro. You'd recite 100,000 of that mantra. But there's different visualizations you do, okay? And it describes it right in the practice. The standard one is Lama Tsongkhapa and the disciples have tubes of light come from their heart, okay? Comes to your crown. You're reciting the mantra like Vajrasattva, washes down and out all the negativities. Done, okay? Second visualization you can do is the practice comes along with 7 wisdoms. 7 wisdoms, beautiful. So some people pick up a book on emptiness, pick up a part in emptiness, and they read a couple of pages and they go, I don't know what they're talking about here. Let me stream that video. I'm not interested in this book. Many people I know have gone through this, right? And then you do this practice, right? Trying to focus, understand visualization for each wisdom, do a little bit, mantra each time with one wisdom each time, second wisdom or something. Try to divide up the malas, that you're reciting a little bit. More wisdom comes. Pick up the book, now you understand. Like that. And so we really have to think about our relationship with what the practice is really doing. When we don't suffer enough is part of the problem. We don't really suffer enough sometimes. Like that. And then I get calls. I remember in Milarepa Center in Vermont, October would hit, month of October, sailing along all summer, everybody's working in their gardens, right? Then October would come, light starts changing because it's further north. Sun starts setting earlier, right? It's a heavy area of alcoholism and heroin addiction, that part of Vermont, unfortunately. So all of a sudden, late October, the center, we start getting all these calls. My daughter is suicidal. My son went off the wagon, he's drinking it. All these things over and over, people can't handle like that. And then they get religious. Then people, you get the cancer diagnosis, then you go to your priest, help me. I'll go to the service. I'll go to the mass now. So we want to build this so that we're constantly evolving, constantly engaged in the practice, creating the conditions for more of it to unfold. There's one last thing I was going to say. Yes, so some years ago, when I was living in California, there was a wonderful Lama. I can't believe he's still alive. He's amazing. Of the old generation, the ex-abbot of Ganben, Khentsur Rinpoche, Geshe Lobsang Sepel. It's one of my gurus. Geshe Lobsang Sepel, one of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, close friend. He has a community, a center in Southern California, large Chinese community, wonderful people. I've done some retreats with them. And I saw Geshe a couple of years ago, Rinpoche a couple of years ago. And so years ago, he would come to Northern California, come to our centers and teach. He gave a blessing of Manjushri, Buddha of infinite wisdom, Manjushri. Easy, anybody could come. And it was like, you want wisdom? Come to the blessing. So a couple hours he taught, and then he gave the blessing, and then there was a commitment. And people were shocked. They didn't think there was a commitment. They didn't want a daily commitment. You don't want to have to do something every day. So this is the way he said it, okay? It's one page, okay? Praise to Manjushri. I do it every morning. It's one page, you read it. Praise to Manjushri. I'd like to honor the Buddha of infinite wisdom. Why not? It helps me gain some wisdom. And then he said he wanted everyone to do one mala. It's a short mantra. Omara Patsanadi. Okay? Omara Patsanadi. It's a lot of things that monastics sometimes do in the morning. They go Omara Patsanadi, Omara Patsanadi, and they recite, and then they go Omara Patsanadi, and so that's his seed syllable, D, right? And you want to feel that essence in your mind. That's wisdom. That's Manjushri. All are one. Tea, chai, soja. It's all are one. Buddha, Manjushri is merged with that seed syllable, Tibetan syllable. It's all the same. So now I have it on my tongue, so helps my speech improve. So what he said is, you read this page, they gave it out at the center. You do one mala, one turn of the rosary, right? Omara Patsanadi, Omara Patsanadi, Omara, like that. And you can do it as quickly as you want. And then there was a little bit of a groan in the room. I could hear few people, we didn't know we were having, because he did it at the end. And then he looked up and he said, so if you want wisdom, you don't want wisdom, then don't do. Right? This is what it's like, do you want freedom? Okay, you don't want freedom? Then don't do the practices. So it really struck me, because I always think about that of like, it's for us. They're not giving it to us as a punishment. So you just have to think about that in relation to your practice. And I always ask people, can you please realistically adjust something in your life? And I say realistically, adjust something in your life so you can shift a little bit of energy from this time wasting stuff I do to a little bit more practice. A little bit new. I'm going to pick that book up. I'm going to read that book this month. I'm going to get that course done. But make it realistic and gentle, the adjustment. It's not a whole thing like, I'm going to sit for an hour a day. And even that, when I hear somebody say that, she sits for an hour, and I think, don't say that, the length of time. It's not about the length of time. I can sit for an hour meaninglessly, just sitting there spacing out. It's not about how long you sit, it's what you're doing when you're sitting. What you're doing. Is the mind really training, building concentration, analyzing something useful to bring you to a deeper understanding? So think of what you can realistically do in your life to make some adjustments. Okay. So let's look at some other sufferings. Let's look at some other sufferings. Just allow the mind to settle on the breath for a moment. So we have a suffering of dissatisfaction. How does that work in your life? Dissatisfaction. Some people suffer from this more than others. Are you satisfied and happy with what you have? Is the mind always complaining? What do you notice in your own life? When things are not working the way you want, what kind of expectation did you have? Just look at the suffering of dissatisfaction. Never truly content. Never okay with the way things are. Just in general. And how does that work in your life? How does it affect your life and the people around you? And if you're not very dissatisfied, what's it like around the people that are? So are you constantly striving for more and better samsaric pleasures? Does that happen? Look how we follow the how we follow objects of desire. So the sense faculties, our organs take in information that stimulates them in different ways. Your eyes, your ears, your skin, sense of touch, taste, smell. Okay. And we go out after things that come in through those sense organs. We want to be satisfied. I want this desire satisfied. Wasn't great that time. I'm going to do it again. I'll try again. Think of that mindset if you get caught up in that. And then what it causes also to arise of other distortions in the mind. Dissatisfaction can create jealousy, pride, negative thoughts. It unleashes a whole pool of other mental imbalances. What about the suffering of uncertainty? Uncertainty, the indefinite nature of samsaric pleasures. Think about that, the indefinite nature of samsaric pleasures. So whatever happiness these pleasures bring, think about it. Whatever happiness these pleasures bring never lasts. Review your life. What do you find is lasting of those pleasures, of the samsaric pleasures? We can discuss whether you find a samsaric pleasure that creates lasting happiness for you. And think about how we want some certainty in certain aspects of our life. The need to know. The biggest uncertainty is we don't know when we're going to die. And as you get closer to that moment, people that aren't prepared get more and more frightened. They don't know when it will happen, but they know it's coming soon. So why not practice now with things that we need to know, things that we need some certainty? And look at people. So people buy homes. They wanted some stability, some solidity. And then a fire comes and burns down the house. The worst situation, people have children. Something happens, disease, something else. Child dies. Seems like out of the world order to have a child die before the parents. Horribly tragic. Horribly tragic. That was not what you knew on day one when the baby came out and you're just looking at the little face. Not usually in the thinking then. You just never know. Never know if we'll be alive tomorrow. So think of how they work in your life. Dissatisfaction and uncertainty. So here's a poem, Master Atisha. Master Atisha. The enjoyment of pleasures stemming from desire is as empty as reflected moonlight, as fleeting as an echo, as illusory as a mirage, as dependent as a reflection. into this vast ocean of kleshas, the rivers of birth, decay, sickness, and death flow unceasingly. In the past, I was bound by the karmic power of impure deeds, but today I am able to fulfill this life. So why not seek after Dharma? So please reflect on that poem. What do you seek after? And how much of that will bring you freedom, ultimate freedom, and lasting happiness? So let's just think, in conclusion of this meditation, how just imagine all transmigratory beings. So all the sentient beings. Rinpoche changed sentient to transmigratory, so we get that sense of going around again and again and again with ignorance, with confusion, with suffering. Just imagine all these beings around us. We certainly have beings in this room and in Brooklyn. Right? They're surrounding yourself. And feel how they're all living in this same suffering situation. They're all living in the same intolerable suffering. Like we're being locked in a prison of samsaric existence. And at times, if you want to be more extreme, like a pit of fire, living in a pit of fire. Can you make it to that level? So can you meditate enough on the causes of samsara and these types of sufferings so that you really develop this aversion? I can't do this anymore. And let renunciation arise in your heart. Renunciation again, having some compassion for yourself, meaning you want to give up suffering. You're ready to start giving up suffering. Instead, choosing Dharma as you move along the path. And then again, we have the Buddha in front of us. So a nice little inclusion we can do, because I was asked at lunch about the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, the mantra of the Buddha of compassion, Chenresig's mantra. So sometimes when you do these meditations, you see all these beings. I feel helpless with them. I can't help all of them. Sometimes can't even help myself. My own relationship with suffering that I keep signing up for. So you don't need to get down on yourself, but you have the Buddha in front. At his heart, merged with your teacher, you can imagine a little Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig. Okay? And that Buddha of compassion, here we have a forearm version of him. Second picture in. Forearm version. Yep. Imagine he's at the heart of the Buddha in front of you. They're all one again, all the same. And we can recite some of the mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. It's our easiest mantra. Om is like an opener, the all of the universe. Okay, Mani, jewel. Padme, lotus. So the all of the universe is like a jewel in the lotus of my heart. Om Mani Padme Hum. So imagine light rays coming from the heart of that Buddha, descending over to us, melting into our forehead, easing our suffering, easing the pain, but also generating some inspiration in us. I'm going to keep choosing Dharma. I'm going to step up my Dharma practice. So we'll try a little bit chanting, and then we can recite some on our own. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. Om 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 Mani Padme Hum. And you can imagine all the beings. Just imagine these transmigratory beings around us, and it's also entering their foreheads, easing their discomfort. Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. May any merit from doing this practice help us to explore more and more how we suffer, so we develop renunciation of that, to help us progress along this path to Buddhahood, so we can benefit all living beings. So please relax. Okay, so the next meditation I'd like to do, or any questions about the meditation or the sufferings? There's a lot more we could go more deeply into each suffering slowly. So generally you don't get up and get a drink in the middle of the class. So but it's okay, please. But we want to get into good Dharma habits. We used to never drink in the Gompa years ago, but now everybody has their bottles and that's okay. You know, if you certainly need it for medical reasons, but it's good to get into good habits. Like, because usually when one person does it, then the next person wants to get up and the next person, and like that. So certainly you can bring a bottle in and something like that. So any questions? Everybody okay with the? So I want to do meditation on bodhicitta. Yes, please. So Sheila.
Hi, thank you. So you imagine the Buddha on your crown or in front of you or both?
Generally, I'm leaving the Buddha in front.
And he's looking forward or he's looking at you?
He's looking at you, facing you. The deities are always facing you. Yeah, so you get the blessing. When they come to your crown, they're facing the same direction as you.
Right.
Like that. And then the light descends down
Right.
like
Okay,
that.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was just, I just added that in the end because Westerners have a hard time. So when the suffering comes up, they really start laying trips on themselves. I'm no good and I just suffer. And it's just more to get that taste. And we did this very quickly. But sometimes then it's nice, you think a little bit. I can have compassion for others. I also have compassion for myself. Chenresik's there to help you. Because we were talking at lunch about Om Mani Padme Hung, where do you fit that in your practice if you like it? And there's not lots of ways. Sometimes you might be in the retreat and you realize, I just need to say some of this mantra, at the right time. You don't want to interrupt your whole sadhana and things. But at some point you might say, I just want to have a little thought of that, a little recitation of that. And sometimes when you're in a longer retreat, you have your deity practice. That's your main focus. Sometimes you have to recite a number of mantras. So you have to get those usually done the second and third sessions. You have more time to count because the first session you've set up the practice. The main practice takes time. Last session, you're going to do maybe some other practitioners do protector prayers, but you do longer dedications. You do Vajrasattva. You definitely want to get some purification done. So second and third, you might be counting a lot of mantras like that. But the thing is, for those of you with tantric initiations, we have other commitments. If you've got a longer Dharma career, you've got other commitments you may have signed up for by coming to a certain program with a teacher. They said you need to do this. So you want to get those done as well. And sometimes it can be some short recitation, Chenresig or something else, Buddha of wisdom. It's all good. Like that. So bodhicitta, we're going to do a meditation on, oh yes, please, sorry. Patty, please, yes.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I might need some help articulating this question. It just came up during the meditation when we were talking about dissatisfaction and how to look at dissatisfaction in our life and then look at other people that we know who are dissatisfied. And isn't it true that dissatisfaction or some kind of dissatisfaction is what makes us go towards renunciation?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we weren't looking at dissatisfaction as in a negative way?
Well, we are looking at the dissatisfaction in the negative way of when my mind, everything that turns up for you in samsara doesn't cut it. So you want to look at it that way, not the dissatisfaction of I realize this world system, worldly dharmas are not making it. So sorry, that's not the main focus. But the focus is that samsaric pleasures are not measuring up. And the best thing is to look at your own experience. Like look at my mind. And some people aren't that dissatisfied. Okay, what about uncertainty? How do you handle that? I know some people that dissatisfaction isn't their thing, but uncertainty, they've driven me crazy at centers. I need to know when you're gonna, and I'm like, I don't know. What, how do I spell it out? I don't know. I'm not God. I'm not clairvoyant. And so some people have that issue. I didn't go through some other, there's the suffering of loneliness. Very heavy for some people. But it's better to relate to your own thing because then you start to generate renunciation and go, I can't do this anymore. I really don't want to be twisted. Did anybody find a samsaric pleasure that is everlasting, that brings you lasting happiness? I'm always curious. No, let me know, really. Let me know because we dilute, we fool ourselves. Like, oh no, it's really okay. This is, my friend with his golf game telling me all his golfing tournaments. He's a Dharma practitioner. He used to be really serious, but now the golfing tournaments, this is really, no, it's okay. I'm out there. I'm thinking about Dharma when I'm out there. Okay. I mean, I don't know his mind. I can't say, but we make a lot of excuses. So just mainly you want to look at your own mind. Look at your own mind. And renunciation. So sometimes some of you have had that, some really difficult thing going on, really bad period you're going through. Things are not working and whatever. And then it creates some habits in you and some even interpersonal things with people, miscommunications, really bad time. And sometimes you get to a point where there's a big blow up or something happens, some drama happens. And so you'll obsess for a while, you'll go back, you know, sleepless at night, like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that to her, what, you know, and, but really bad thing, or a friend is like, I'm not talking to you anymore. You know, people have these things in families, they're, you know, slam the phone down, I'm not talking anymore. These things, and you're just like, oh, you know, you're just absolutely distraught. It happens in relationships. I had it once in a relationship where we had a big fight, and then they left, and you know, and just kind of how my mind thought about that and dealt with it. And what happened is it was a pattern I would get into in relationships over and over. This is my samsara, over and over and over. I did it a little better, but I still didn't learn. So here was the mistake again, happened again, blow up happened, you know, they left. And all of a sudden there was a little, in my suffering, in my tremendous suffering from attachment and whatever you're going through. And I had this little bing, little like, and all of a sudden something in me was like, I'm never doing it like this again. And so we all have had moments where you go, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it like this. It's a very powerful place to be. So even though it's very painful in that moment, because you're not sure what the new habit is, what will the new thing look like? But I really, so that was like my renunciation. I'm giving this up. I'm not doing this again like this. Can't. So that suffering can be very transformative. And I never did it like that again. I was so determined. So you've all had your own moments where you're determined and you go, that really sucked. Never again. No more. We've all been there, you know, and in different ways, right? So that's a very powerful place for you. Taste that renunciation. You know, when you get a taste of it and you go, oh, wow, I was able to give that up. That's suffering. I never did it like that again. It was never that bad again. Like, so what other things, what other worldly activities can you give up, you know, to say, okay, and because some of them are not as dramatic. So you're doing it. I had a joke when I got to the Netherlands this year, because I've been going, the center's asked me to come the last few years, just a couple, 2-3 months a year. And I went there. And so I like art. And it's a good thing for none. It's an easy thing for none to do to entertain herself. I just go to an art museum once in a while. And so for me in Amsterdam, some of the best art museums in the world. And I have one of my favorite paintings is there. And I go and I have a museum pass and somebody offers a sweet. So I went and I never did this before. I've never done this in front of a painting. I decided to get a selfie with this painting. But it was really like a joke. And I thought, you know, I'm going to slap this up on social media just as a, you know, but the main part of why I did it was sometimes because I travel so much, I put things up. First of all, the teachings are the main thing, but so people know where I am. And in Amsterdam, of all places, many, many people travel through Amsterdam, holidays. And I've met many old friends there that I hadn't seen in years that came through because they knew I was there. And actually the same thing happened. A couple of people were like, are you in Amsterdam? Let's get together. That I've never seen. And some of them don't even live near me. So I put this picture up. Painting is behind me. And then I wrote a caption and I just said, once again, courting the worldly dharmas, ... me and my girl. You know, it's the milkmaid. Vermeer's The Milkmaid. I think one of the best paintings in the world. So anyway, I popped that up. And then a very serious Dharma practitioner here, Eric Menlo, you know him, right? He's going to die if he hears that. Anyway, he's a good friend who had come from an incredible art background. He's an amazing guy. And he responded right away. And he goes, that is not worldly Dharma. That painting is transcendent. So I was like, Eric, close to my heart. Like, I'm like, thank you, you know. So, you know, sometimes you have fun with your practice too. Like I need breaks and you know, am I going to go out there dancing and getting wild? But occasionally, but make it fun where I'm aware this is not really a Dharma thing, but it's not a bad thing that I'm doing, but just aware where my breaks are not going to go on for that long, taking me away or getting my mind into something else or, you know, and just see what's reasonable, what works for you, like that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, Rinpoche, I remember we'd go to a Dharma movie with him. We went to a museum once with him in New York to see bodies. Remember that exhibition? Just as a thing, Rinpoche, I don't think would care. but you know, he's got attendance, and monks found it interesting, and I went along with them one day. So there's certain things. Rinpoche, we'd go out on a boat with Rinpoche occasionally, but of course he's going to be dragging the mantra plate behind us, so everybody in the sea gets blessed. Like, so combine it with something else. Like, I purposely put worldly dharmas on the thing, so my mind is in there, you know, me snorkeling, and here comes the blind sea turtle, or here comes the sea turtle. So I'm at least thinking, like, is it going to get its head through this lifesaver? Like, you can still think about dharma when you're doing it. Oh, sorry. Do we need a break, or should we take it? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. But do you need a 10-minute break? No, everybody's going, okay, we're doing okay. So something to think about. Thank you. That's good. Or did you turn the AC up a little bit, or? That'll be good. Yeah, that's good. It got a little warm in here. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you. So Patty, is that helpful? Just a way to think about it. Yes, please.
I guess this is two questions, but I think they're related. Oh no, I forgot the first one. Let's see. When you were talking about this relationship thing over and over and over, okay, I'm never going to do it again. But now I'm in the place, well, what next? Like, and I'm very much in that place. So I just wanted to say I felt very validated. And we'll see.
Right.
But the other piece was,
and also one thing I'd add to that. So in between relationships for some people, and this is a world of relationships. We're in relationship with a lot of different beings. Nothing wrong with relationship. The only problem is attachment. That's what's wrong with it, right? You know, but this relationship itself. But Lama Yeshe used to say it's very hard to have intimate relationship without attachment. So you explore. You know, there's a lot of Dharma practitioners that are married with kids in relationships with, you know, great practitioners I know. You don't need to be a monk or nun. Many practitioners I know, and use it. And like, I ended up bringing my boyfriend to the Dharma. He's the one that probably was a condition of my getting ordained, you know, with him, got ordained with him. So there's many things. So when you're in the in-between, in the bardo, between relationships, right? It's another bardo. But again, like, can we a little bit expand the notions rather than looking for the next thing? That, you know, is just pay attention to the messages from the universe, because there's a lot of other stuff going on. And sometimes I feel like, especially when you're trying to think about emptiness or meditate on emptiness, not that I know much about that, but I'm just saying, where it's almost like you can peel back this reality and there's a whole other dance going on, and we don't see it because we're so ignorant. So all I can do is go, table, this, I got my thing, I got, you know, and it's so limited when, you know. And the other thing is, when you're in between the relationship, the beginning is a little unnerving because you had a habit of, I was doing this and this person. And how long were you in the relationship?
about 8 years.
Yeah, so it's a while. It's a while. You build up, and then there's this massive emptiness gap. What, you know, and then what would happen for me is I would get used to that. And I would start to emerge in a different way. So not because relationships are, you're in relation with the other person. If it's one person, some people are in relationship, you know, intimate relationship with a couple people. I just met somebody, he's in what did he call it? A throuple. He's in a throuple, 3 people. So instead of a couple, he's in a throuple. That's what he told me. And I said, okay, you know, and so that would be even more complicated for me, you know. But anyway, so you're in the thing. And then what I would notice in each person, first of all, you're enhanced by some of the partner's things that you might never try. They introduce you to things. That's kind of cool. And you go, I never did that before. And I liked it. I like that. Some of the things they do, you don't like. So you just say, okay, it's not my thing. But you get exposed thing. But then I also noticed there were times when, you know, you wake up on a day you're off. You know, you have a day off. And if it's just you and your experience, there is this capital F, freedom. You know, like, it's whatever you feel like, you know, maybe I wanted to get out of bed right away and just go outside and take a walk, and just the birds are chirping. And just kind of, and then I ended up being out there for longer than I thought I'd be out there, but there's nobody to, I have to check in with. Nobody that I got to get back because we're going to have breakfast. And oh yeah, I said we are going to do that thing that I don't really feel like doing it. But so there's this freedom that you can experience. You know, you might have loneliness pop in times you see, and everybody looks like they're coupled. They're really not, but they look like they are. So you just explore that a little bit. And it's interesting. It can be a delicate time, but it can also be an exciting time to see more of who am I emerging rather than who am I in relationship, where certain of my wants and things and ideas and creativity might get buried under a habit of being with this person. And sometimes they would enhance things. And also some things that I don't get exposed to anymore because I'm not with them, and could even be people you don't see anymore that you miss. And so there's a whole experience of, so I think just, you know, you ride kind of without the seatbelt on the magic carpet and see where it takes you. And I know it's hard at times, but your second question, I don't know if that's helpful, but that was, I was just thinking.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
The second question is that one of the things that I found to be the most difficult to move through is accepting that human beings make mistakes, and probably especially me. And I really appreciate how much you, and Geshe Tenlei was also saying this, that relax, make a mistake, purify, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
What prayers are you interested in? Do those. Can't
Yeah.
quite do the other. And I'm really, I feel like I'm just starting to really taste that approach, as opposed to like these things that I've done in the past that I feel bad about. And I know I hear, like, even when Donna was talking about wanting to just crush the cockroach, I'm like, yeah, I know. But she felt bad about it. And there are so many things like that I feel bad about having done. And I guess I'm not so much asking for advice, although I'm very open to it, but I'm just noticing the way that you and Geshe Tenlei have been approaching this. I just feel more self-accepting in that process. And that's such a blessing. So a little opening, like a little.
So that's the beginning. I just want to read something from Lama Zopa Rinpoche in relation to this. Loving oneself, it's called. So we get an idea on the Mahayana path. We were doing this on Thursday nights, but that bodhicitta, because thank you, that was a little segue, because that's what I'm going to go into next, but is just the enlightened attitude. Bodhi is enlightenment. Citta is mind, the mind of enlightenment. Many of you are familiar with this. Mind of enlightenment is, I want to become a Buddha to benefit all living beings. It's two components. I want to become enlightened to benefit all living beings, okay? So it's not just, I want to be a Buddha. No, it's not that I just want to benefit all living beings. It's both. I want to become a Buddha, then I benefit all living beings unlimitedly, okay? So we have that thought, and then we hear about self-cherishing. It's not helpful, okay? So I should just think of others, not think of myself, okay? But no, so Rinpoche says to love oneself is not contradictory to what Mahayana Buddhism teaches. Mahayana teachings are not saying one should not love oneself. Renouncing oneself and cherishing others is not contradictory to loving yourself. In fact, practicing the Mahayana teaching, bodhicitta, is the best way to love yourself, to take care of yourself. Okay. So whatever we do with our body, speech, and mind is for happiness. So we just acknowledge that. Ordinary beings, that's where we are. Okay. So even the activities of tiny insects, the water bug, I'm sorry she's not here, and I think she's online. The water bugs that we see running around, keeping busy, okay? The purpose of their activities is to be happy and not suffer. It's the same as ours, okay? So by looking at ourselves and at other living beings, we can see it's the same. Whatever we do is to achieve happiness, okay? So then a problem arises. What we call a problem is what we don't want to experience. Happiness is what we want to achieve. Okay. With this in mind, we can stop the problem, stop all the undesirable experiences, And with this mind, we achieve every happiness. And why is this? Rinpoche says, because problems and happiness don't come from outside, okay? The creator of the problems and happiness is oneself in past lives, comes from the mind, comes from the imprints you make in your mind. It's very radical about Tibetan Buddhism, comes from your mind. Therefore, with this mind, all our problems can be stopped. And we can achieve temporal, day-to-day happiness and ultimate happiness and full enlightenment, okay? So Rinpoche goes on, particularly Mahayana Buddhism, the best way of loving oneself is to pull out the root of all the problems, which is right in one's own heart, the ego, self-centered mind. So if you let go of cherishing the I, then it doesn't matter what situation you're experiencing, okay? The problem becomes non-existent. So 1 minute you have a serious problem, okay? And the minute you let go of the problem, it makes you think, I'm going to kill myself. There's no other solution. Okay, I can't move when you have this big problem. And then the problem doesn't exist. But before it was so bad, the problem, okay? But the minute you let go of this uptight, self-centered mind, problem dissolves, okay? A rigidity of how we think things should be. So, and also the self at the center. So one thing you said, I could go on and on, there's a lot, okay, without talking about the long-term result of enlightenment, Rinpoche goes on, what effect immediately comes into your heart by letting go of the self-centered mind? The result is peace, happiness, satisfaction. With bodhicitta, you have fulfillment in your heart. You see life as meaningful. Even if you don't know lots of Dharma, even if you only know Om Mani Padme Hum and nothing else, if you let go of the root of the problems of life, you let go of what makes you cry all the time inside your own heart like a baby, you know, I'm not happy, I'm not happy. So we have it in our own words, right? He says, even with that, you can find happiness and satisfaction when you let go of that self-cherishing mind, okay? No matter how much one learns Buddha Dharma, no matter how much your education expands externally with words and meanings, if the mind is always merged with bodhicitta, one, you generally have a good heart without things like, so he goes on talking about peace in the heart. But what I wanted to say from there is you made a comment and said, but more is the problem of the problems I make. Like you're any different from any of us? You're not. We're all doing the same problems. So don't let the self exaggerate that. I'm worse. I'm worse. We're all in it together. We've all done gunky stuff. Okay. So I don't want that to mire me and hold me down. It becomes like concrete. I'm the bad one. Okay. Think about shared humanity. So we're all in this together. There's an interdependence to all of us. And again, if you want to do those visualizations where the Buddha's in front of me, but I've got all living beings around me. So if I'm going to take refuge right now, beginning my practice, they're all going to do it too. Let's visualize them doing it too, so that we're never really alone. And that helps to spread out the self-cherishing. That when they suffer, I suffer in the same way. I don't suffer more. I'm not worse than them. See, so don't solidify that mind, that because you made a statement and you said, well, everybody does these things, but I do them. You don't do them the worst. And you can purify anything. So if you can learn, do you do Vajrasattva practice? And yeah, that's a great one to do in the evening and just clean up anything of the day and keep working on that mind that arises, that holding concretely, like I'm the worst one, or I'm doing this, or I never learned, or sometimes we have to make a mistake 80 times, but then the 81st time, it's over, you know, and that's just where I am right now. This other lesson I got after 3 mistakes. That's pretty good, but this one took me longer. That's life. That's life. So rather than holding that one up, you know, and then what we also notice with our minds, I notice this a lot in Western culture, and I mentioned this before in here, is as soon as we do something wrong, that's it for the month. That's all I think about, right? And I did all this other good stuff, and I just buried it. I don't see any of it. But this little thing, and this little thing, I had a friend recently, before I left in April, I think, before I left to go back to Amsterdam, we had lunch. She's one of my oldest friends. I've known her since I was 5. She's wonderful. We met, we had lunch, And she's very prompt. She's always right on time. I'm usually running a few minutes late, but I was very conscious. I got there, had it in my calendar, whatever. And then I'm waiting like 10, 15 minutes. And then I thought, I hope she's okay, you know? So I sent a text but what I did is I looked back at her text, the meeting. I said, maybe I got it wrong. And no, it was this time that I got there. So then I just said to her, just checking, are we still on today? Are you okay? And she goes, yeah, I'm on my way. Yeah. And so she came a half an hour late. She thought it was a half an hour late, something. And then I just said, I just wanted to know, did I get the time wrong, or did I, you know? So we just mentioned, she goes, and she looks at her own text and she goes, oh my God, I was a half an hour late. I said, well, it's okay. You're here. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. It was a pleasant place to wait. It wasn't any, you know. So for me, I forgot about it. It was out of my mind. Didn't take up any more mental space. We met, we had a great lunch. It was really fun to see her, right? So we're getting together again. I'm back now. So I said, I'm back. Great. Let's get together. And then she goes, yes, and I'm going to try to be on time this time. And then she said it again. She goes, and I won't be late. And I said, let her go. So that's all we focus on is I did something wrong. And that's the only way anybody sees me now. Hello. We're so much more than that. Brian Stevenson, anybody read Just Mercy? Anyway, he's like one of my heroes. Brian Stevenson, he's a lawyer who represents people that are poor people that got on death row. Many of them are innocent. He gets them off, saved many, many lives. And he said, we're so much more than the worst thing we've ever done, right? So we don't need to focus on that. So that's a great thing to notice about yourself. I noticed about myself, you know, at one point, and was like, what? We're not giving enough airtime to the good stuff we do. Give it more airtime, but in a balanced way. You know, I'm not the greatest person, but hey, I did some good stuff. And yeah, I made this mistake. Let me figure out how not to do that again, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it actually makes me think, do we have time for a minute?
Yeah, we'll just do, yeah.
Okay. I do the Vajrasattva practice, but what I find is that when I'm reviewing all the things that I've done that I regret, I'm reviewing all the things that I've done that I regret. And I've noticed that I've started to become a little averse to the practice because I just realized I'm not remembering all of the good things. Even at the end of the day, I say, I regret all of the harmful actions I've done this day. But I don't say, I'm grateful for all of the virtuous actions I've done today. And I wonder if you have a thought about that.
Yes. So when I do the Vajrasattva practice at night, and I kind of have this rule with students is what I think they should do is the first thing you have to do, like, because I also have a sitting practice at night. You know, I want to kind of close down my day and as much as I can get to during the day, but at night. And so the first review is, how did it go? I had a motivation in the morning. How did it go? And I'm only allowed to first think about the good stuff I did. That's number one, because we always go right to the negative stuff that we did. Especially if you're jammed and you want to get that Vajrasattva in. So I want to think about what I regret and what did I, you know. No, the first thing you have to do is think about the good stuff that you did that day. Good stuff you have many good qualities, but it also corresponds, it's the bookend, it's the second bookend to the first bookend in the morning, the waking up, is when you wake up and you can reflect on the positive circumstances of your life, precious human rebirth, whatever that sits for you, but positive circumstances of your life, okay? But please reflect on your positive qualities. People get uncomfortable with that. Some people have even said to me, I don't have any positive qualities. Simply not true. You got yourself to a Dharma class, that's a positive quality, right? So we have to just gently, but in a balanced way, think about our positive qualities. We do a lot of good stuff. We are good. We are fundamentally good. We have Buddha nature. That makes you fundamentally good, by the way. It doesn't mean you're a Buddha yet, but we're obscured from the Buddha nature. What we're doing is removing those veils of obscuration. But fundamentally, there's a jewel there. All of our compassion, highest level of our compassion, wisdom, loving kindness. So I start with that. Just in a balanced way, reflecting a little bit. Oh, I helped my brother with the such and such, and I did this for just quick little things. And then I'll go, what didn't really work so well today? Then I reflect on that. Now I'm going to do my Vajrasattva and, visualize Vajrasattva in the front and then do my Vajrasattva practice. And then the other thing you can do is get a journal and write down all the gunk so that you don't have to think about it in the meditation. Write it all down. So I did a Vajrasattva retreat. I would highly recommend if you can ever set yourself up for that. It takes about 2 to 3 months. So in the retreat, I had a separate book, a journal, and every single thing I could think of that I thought I did wrong, thought wrong, said wrong, I put down in the book. My earliest memories, page after page after page after page. But it was 2 months, so I wrote pages, just to get it out. I felt really emptied at the end, and every day doing the practices, sessions. And my last session, I read it all, read it out loud. It was good, and I let it go. Let it go. Doesn't kind of revisit again. You know how it pops up again and you go back to that thing? Because I feel like I did, and it inspired me from Rinpoche saying that once we had a senior monk in our tradition from Australia, a lovely guy, who grew up in a family that were butchers. They had a huge butcher business, thousands of cattle and sheep, and he was taking it over from his father. So in one day, with one phone call, he controlled the lives of, thousands of animals to be slaughtered. So he did it, it was what he thought he was raised to do. And then he met the Dharma, met Rinpoche. Then he became the director of one of our centers. And at one point he was saying to Rinpoche about the purification of the killing karma, all the killing karma. And then Rinpoche just turned and said, oh, you purified all that when you were the director of Tushita. Like, why are you still thinking about that? So we hang on. As women I know that had abortions, they never got over it. They're just always like, well, I had an abortion, but I killed, And then Lama Yeshe said to one student, was obsessing about it, and he said, we've killed many things, dear. You've had countless lives. You've been murderers. You've killed. Why? So then, but the self-cherishing mind has to focus on this one thing I did, because I'm more important than anyone else. So also, my affliction is more important than anyone else's. My negative action is more important than anyone else's. It just raises the self-cherishing eye. It's just a device of that, really. So it was so liberating for me. It's like, let me write it down. I want to see these things. I want to get them out, reread them. It was powerful to reread them and experience really regret for some of them. Louise at 5 years old, what I did to Louise when I was 5, like that one, I'm still having a little trouble letting go. That was the first one, but just, to really be there with it, did the best I could do, let it go, then done. So is that helpful? Yeah. So you can try that.
Just a quick clarifying question on that practice. When you said you wrote it down, and then at the end you read it, but during, you said the meditation, for the fourth part of the Vajrasattva where you vow not to do it again, did you just remember what you wrote down for that day, or how did you do that?
Yeah, what I would do for whatever was coming up that day, because different ones would pop up, different things. When you're alone on retreat, you're not creating a lot of negative karma other than not realizing emptiness. There's not a whole lot of things. I was careful with the insects, but I wasn't interacting with people. So then whatever would pop up, I would try to go into the regret. And then I would think about, can I have a remedy to that? Or think about that the next time I see that person that I felt like I hurt, if I was going to see them again, like somebody I knew I'd see, the next time I see them, I'm going to apologize. Or the next time I'm with that person that I just find so irritating sometimes. So as a result, I said something really rude to her once. So the next time I see her, I'll see her at this event. The first 5 minutes I'm with her, I'm going to really, really practice patience. Like I would do something like that, something realistic if I knew. And the other things that I knew I wouldn't see people is just thinking, if I'm in that situation again, I will be very careful, but make it a realistic time frame that you'll keep, that you'll actually do, like that. To say I'll never get angry for the rest of my life, that's not likely. So make it something that's realistic. Okay, we're going to go on to meditate on bodhicitta. And there's two methods to develop bodhicitta. Anybody know what those are? Two methods to develop bodhicitta. So one is equalizing and exchanging self with others, and the other method? That's one of the meditations in it. Anybody remember? Any 7-point cause and effect method to develop bodhicitta. Thank you. 7-point cause and effect method. So we're going to meditate on that point. The first point is the hardest point, is all beings have been your mother. All beings have been your mother. Both of these methods rest on a basis of equanimity. So it's beautiful equanimity meditations, friend, enemy, stranger, one of our famous ones, that is in the book, How to Meditate, friend, enemy, stranger. And if you want another level of that meditation, in a beautiful, I think I mentioned the book Path to Bliss on the sheet that'll be sent out. Path to Bliss is a gush of the Lamrim from His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's one of my favorite Lamrim books, small, Path to Bliss. And I think around pages like 160, 162, something like that, there is a 9-point equanimity meditation from His Holiness Trijang Rinpoche, who was the junior tutor to the Dalai Lama in his last life. Trijang Rinpoche. 9-point equanimity meditation. So after that meditation, then we go into the 7-point cause and effect. So let's sit comfortably. And this is the hardest point to realize of the different points. And basically it's all beings have been your mother. You want to reflect on their kindness. You want to repay the kindness. It's number 3. Number 4, feeling love for them as if they were your child, wanting them to be happy. And then the next step is Mahakaruna, great compassion, wishing them to be free of suffering. And then the next point is universal responsibility. I take responsibility, I step up, that I'm going to live my life, direct my life in some way to develop this extraordinary attitude. I take the responsibility myself, and that results in bodhicitta. So we're going to start with we're going to start with seeing all beings have been your mother. This is very difficult because we think so linearly and don't realize the mind is a continuum without a beginning or end. So it does help with this meditation. This is a higher level meditation that would assume you've had courses on the mind and have some background, but absolutely perfect to just jump in. And just settle the mind on the breath for a moment. So just think about this present moment of your mind right now, seated here in your space. And think about the activities of today that got you into this space right now. So for instance, this moment was preceded by a number of different causes, conditions that got you into this place right now. And that the mind of today was preceded by a mind of yesterday. So the same conditions are there, same things unfolding, but there's a continuum to that. So in a sense, you could say that samsaric, maybe even called transmigration, right? The fact that we come around again and again and again, it's beginningless. It's beginningless. There's a moment before it. And when I was a child, that's also preceding of what makes me what I am right now. There's moments that evolved into me right now. So you kind of see this cause-effect relationship. I didn't just pop in here. There's moments before that created this moment right now in my mind and create whatever activities I am engaging in. And Buddhism says that the present moment of consciousness and every other moment of consciousness, every moment of our mind, is preceded by a moment that causes it, that gives rise to it. There's a cause and effect relationship. So we like to find that first cause because we often think linearly. But Buddhism would say the first moment of your consciousness, that some people would say is at conception. Many people think that's where they began. That's where your body began. You can prove that. The body is physical. And sperm and egg come together. We can look at it under a microscope, see the cells replicating, and that created your body. The mind? How does the mind get in there? So Tibetan Buddhism says the mind is not physical. So it's not part of the body. It's not the brain. But it has a unique way of connecting with the form in a gross level, a subtle level, and a most subtle level. And in its most subtle experience, the mind is like mounted on the most subtle wind that is physical in basis, that allows your body to form. And so the mind mounted on this most subtle wind, like a rider on a horse. And it comes in, that mind, from a previous moment of that mind. So that first moment you feel when the sperm and egg, that most subtle wind is there, allowing the fertilization to take place, Tibetan Buddhism says the mind is there. And it comes in from a previous moment of that mind, which indicates a past life. So just imagine for a moment, if this is the case, so before this life, there was another life before this, with all its drama, all of its events and doings, all of its stories, all the characters. Another life where you have had a mother. So again, outside of a few hell rebirths and a few other types of rebirth, most of our rebirths in one form or another, in one realm or another, we have had a mother. So I want you to get the sense, like we did yesterday with the sand and the ocean, of the vastness going back of all those past lives you've had. So the life before this one, there was another life before that, and one before that. Every life, every one of those lives, you've had a mother. Every one of those lives without beginning. Please reflect more deeply. Feel the stretch back, the expanse, and back and back and back without beginning. Every life there, you've had a mother. That unique bond, unique relationship. Countless mothers. There's no beginning again to these lives. There's no first life. It's countless. It's huge. It's hard for the mind to get around. It is countless. So it goes back, and every life again, you've had a mother. So there are countless opportunities and situations. There's countless living beings. So think of the different possibilities of all these beings. If there's no beginning to my lives, there's no first life, no finite number of lives I've had. So the possibility exists that all beings have been my mother at one point or another. All beings have been my mother at one time or another. So again, due to samsaric transmigration, there's no beginning. So my previous lives are numberless. They're numberless. And due to different individual karmas that I have, my present mother has not been my mother in every life. Karma is very intricate. As a result of that, there's been other mothers. This possibility exists that all beings at one time or another have been my mother. Even the mother of this present life, my mother of this life. She wasn't always my mother, but the possibility exists she's been my mother countless times. Because there's numberless lives. Keep your concentration focused there. Feel the vastness of those past lives. Endless, how it goes back. Somebody had to raise you. And because of the beginningless lives, the mother of this life has been my human mother countless times when I took a human rebirth. But the possibility exists they have been my mother when I was a cow, a dog, a chicken, countless times. That possibility exists if there's countless rebirths. and the nature of karma. And due to this, all the realms of samsara, 6 different realms of samsara, there is none in which I was never born. So I've taken rebirth in every realm at one point or another. I've been born in every single place throughout all of space. That possibility exists. I've taken each and every physical form imaginable, numerous times. Buddhism says there is not a time for sentient beings when there were not mothers. So just imagine, the possibility is there. All beings have been my mother. All beings have been my mother. Everyone in this room has been your mother countless times. So when you look at all sentient beings, and especially the ones we are challenged by, and it's hard, but if you give the possibility at one time or another, I had this bond with that being, they were my mother. It's not that all of our mothers are perfect or great, but in general, there's nothing quite like that mother love. And you have that relationship with all living beings. And slowly from these bodhicitta meditations, we let the heart slowly move open, more and more considering the people around us. We walk by, people on the subway. So many people we encounter here in New York, let alone our other places. Every being, possibility exists, has been my mother countless times. A quote from Master Nagarjuna. Sometimes it's helpful to have a scriptural reference you go over and over in your mind. If you memorize a certain quote, or he says, if we divided this earth into pieces the size of juniper berries, the number of these would not be as great as the number of times that each sentient being has been our mother. Think about all the tiny juniper berries. The times beings have been our mother, numberless, countless. So from this place, can we make a dedication to try as best as we can to learn these methods to generate bodhicitta, to try to embrace these steps as much as we can, to grow our heart open, practice this path as diligently as we're able, to move along this path to enlightenment, at least becoming happier, more peaceful. Can we share all of that as much as possible with all others we encounter? Please relax. It's a difficult meditation to get that concept initially. But if you first study and read the 7 steps, again, you go into the next step is easier, reflecting on their kindness. Okay. So now, if you didn't have a kind mother, think of your father. Think of a mentor, someone else in your life that always thought of you first. And so use someone else, but you can look at somebody else's mother. Okay. But really go in the meditation, you're just focusing. So each of these steps is one meditation alone. Spend time. So you want to create some Lamrim meditation. I mentioned again, 12 months a year is a year. There's 3 scopes. So you break the year into 4 months. Each scope, meditations for 4 months. Then you divide up that scope. Okay? So you come to the higher scope, and 7-point cause and effect, you have 7 meditations. Then you have equanimity, an 8th meditation. That's just one method. Second method, you have some other things you reflect on. So you want to first study, read about those methods, compare different books, different Lamrim books if you like, right? And then you can also, then what you do is divide up. So you have 7 or 8 steps in one meditation, right? Maybe, you want to do each meditation 3 times, right? So that's like a month, a little less than a month. You divide it up like that and just say, I'm going to have them. I mean, one time I was home during COVID, 6 weeks. I just focused on bodhicitta. That's what I did for 6 weeks, my retreat. Every day, a few sessions, just over and over. Sometimes I just did the same meditation over and over. It goes deeper, it sinks deeper. In the beginning, it's all strange for us to sit, how to get the concentration going. Then it starts coming. The more you sit, the more you do it, the mind is there over and over. Right? And then you take, so reflecting on their kindness, that's easier. I mean, you look around at mothers, what they do, the unbelievable sacrifices. You just look at it. I could just take my own mother. My God, what she did for me. Right? Incredible. And I just go over and just go over. It's incredible. That one's easy to realize, right? And second one. And then you go, how would you repay the kindness? I personally think our parents, you can never really repay the kindness, the life they gave you, got to a precious human rebirth. It's really hard to repay it, but you do your best. How would you repay? I used to have little fantasies of what we were going to buy my parents certain holidays. That's just one level. What about just basic kindness? Treating them respectfully, trying to help them, taking care of them in old age, or helping them get to the doctor, or on and on. Bring them to the Dharma, right? I used to get my parents, we went to see His Holiness. They met many of my teachers. They didn't need to be Buddhists. They went to, and they were open to go to teaching. They liked it. They felt good. Like that. That's neat. Just little things you can, so many things you can do, right? Then so each step, a little bit like that, you try slowly, slowly. I know we're out of time. Any other question? Another thing I wanted to mention, so Lamrim books, there's so many. There's just some valuable ones. There happens to be, there's a Lama in Australia, I think he's still alive, but he has these formidable Lamrim books. Geshe Loden, I think, Loden, but it's like the stages of the path to enlightenment, and then he has the meditations on the stages of the path. Anyway, they're very traditional, but they're incredibly thorough, and they're really great to just add a little something to really get the traditional, or am I really thinking about? Says a lot. They're very heavy books. They're expensive, and they're expensive to ship as well from Australia. I don't know if they're available here, but you can have a look at those. They're really valuable books. I really like them. He has many different books, and they're really good books. Any final comments or questions? Everybody okay? I'm sorry this was so short, so quick. We didn't get to all the meditations, but you get a little taste of how it can unfold. And it's helpful. I know some of you setting up, your calendar, you're like, I know it's hard in our culture. And what's kind of neat with centers is when you're around other people doing it. That's where we would get the juice. Some of us had the good fortune that when I mentioned we took time off of work and we went to Asia. So we were in like a circuit of India and Nepal. So His Holiness was teaching every year over there. And then all the other lamas would set themselves up and do certain teachings. So basically, if you had the chance, so we went over to participate in that month-long retreat, or then during the season, we'd go to see His Holiness. And you'd be there with a whole bunch of people that were doing similar things. Some would fly in and out of their countries and just come for that period. And some of us would then go off and do retreat. And then we come back and you compare notes with people. So, a lot of people meditating on the Lamrim. And people, when we would talk about it, you'd have your Dharma friend, that's what you talk about. Oh, how did that work? Well, I did this, and and how did you do that, Nundro? I did this. So it was a really exciting time of, building this Dharma community with yourself, but then getting the inspiration from other people of how they were doing. I got so many tips from my friends of what they did, and everybody helping each other to do like that. One friend that, and because we didn't have all the books and things like that as well, but when Rinpoche, I was going to start Nundro and Rinpoche told me to do water bowls. I didn't think to do that first, and then I wanted to go to Laudo. I had some kind of, obviously some seed there to go to this remote place in Nepal. And then Rinpoche was like, very good. Like, just love that idea. So I was like, okay, I guess that's good. And I was very nervous about going there. And then there were no booklets of how to do water bowls. I said, I don't know how to do water bowls. And then Rinpoche told me to ask a student, ask him, this monk. So I went and asked a Western monk. I went to, and we were all there doing retreat at the time at Tushita and Dharamsala. So I went to ask him, I said, Rinpoche told me to ask you about the water bowls, how to do them. And I was going to jot down the notes. And then he goes, first he was touched. He goes, Rinpoche told you to ask me? And he goes, oh, yeah. I said, yep. And he had been up to Laudo. He had a cave near there and had done a lot of retreats up there. So then I said, yes, I'm planning to do it at Laudo. And he said, oh, you're going to do water bowls at Laudo? This is the beginning of my Nundro. And he said, there's no water up there. That was the beginning of my Nundro, right? That was it. So brought a pipe, and we brought to another spring. They ran the pipe. But again, one of the lamas said about in your practice is the harder you work, the more purification. So there is something about, but the thing is, you don't want to have it so hard that your mind is miserable. So you have to find that balance. Also with retreat, you don't want to be too comfortable. One of my lamas said, because then you get lazy. So you got to find that balance. Got to find the balance. You need some level of comfort, okay? But some level of, challenges, some level of difficulty like that. I remember because I did so many retreats at Laudo, in the initial days, it was so primitive, no toilets, no running water, no electricity, little kerosene lamp with the stench of it. And then they mostly just had potatoes in the beginning. That's pretty much all they had. Potatoes, maybe some white rice, and it's really limited. So you had to like potatoes to live there. And but over the years, it's gotten much better. It's much better. And a number of us raised money but then I ended up doing another retreat. I had the good fortune when I finished being director of one center at Vajrapani Institute. So I was able to get some months in there. And that was different. I wasn't sure it'd be different because so many of my retreats were at Laudo. And so Vajrapani, the cabin was somewhat primitive. The place I lived, they let me stay there. And it was fine, but it had an outhouse, outdoor shower, but it was wonderful. It's perfect. And but the thing is, the food was very different than potatoes. It's California. Organic food you could have every day. I never had food like that on retreat. So what I would do is once a week, I'd leave a list for the cook who's on my path, my friend, tacked to a tree, my food list for the week. And then he, the next day, would deliver to a cooler at the bottom of my path. And I would go down with my backpack, load everything up in the backpack and take it back up. And then I just cooked for myself. It was easier. I had a little camping stove type of thing. And it was perfect. So then on my birthday during the retreat, the director at the time who took over for me, they decided to offer me something on my birthday, a pie. because she knew it was my birthday. And I heard after lunch, I hear some voices like right below my path, because I wasn't talking to anybody, and the staff had come up and they were singing happy birthday to me with this pie. It was very sweet, with an organic blueberry pie, like my favorite. Like I was like, I couldn't believe, I was like, and I was thinking, I think I've like died and gone to heaven on that. Like, is this retreat too luxurious it was very cute. So that day I took the pie, and then I took a slice, because what am I going to do with a whole pie? And I took the slice, and then the next day I sent it down so they could enjoy the pie. And but that was fun to have the nicer food. But I think I did better at Laudo. I think my mind was better. Laudo's a very, very, I mean, Rajapani's blessed, but Laudo's really, Rinpoche's holy cave is there, and it's a very special place. So it's good to go to a retreat center, where you're away from your ordinary life. I think that does help. And especially if the place is blessed like that. And especially it's really neat if it's in our lineage, can be really helpful. Can be really helpful too. And good to get a little bit, do some retreat every year if you can, whether it just starts at the weekend or day long, you can do at home and try something to just spend a little time. It's hard in the beginning. It's hard to do on your own. So that's why group retreats can be really nice as well. Thank you all so much. We're going to dedicate the merit. I want to thank everyone for joining, and thank you all to all the people at Shantideva that have made this possible. Thank you so much. Very grateful. Thank you very much. And let's do some dedication. I want to read Master Shantideva's dedication. We're going to do a few others from the prayer book, just some of the general dedications. And I hope it's been helpful. I know it's just a short time, so I feel like I'm not sure what you can impart sometimes, but I hope you get a little taste of few suggestions. So let's read together and invest all of the positive energy, all the merit we've created. May it really help us with our practices, and to really be able to embrace this path and roll it into our lives in some way. May it really help us fully wake up so we can benefit all living beings. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow. May that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. And wait, we're just going to do one more. Oops. Do my prayers though. Come back. Here we go. Okay, here we go. This is a beautiful prayer we did during the precepts. Master Shantideva from Bodhicharyavatara, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. One of His Holiness's favorite dedications. Let's send this out to the planet, which needs some help right now. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And we'll do the long life prayer for His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche's long prayer to return. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make requests. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you so much. And I really hope you can try to do some of these practices as best as you can. It's lovely to see all of you, and wishing you all the best. Stay happy.